Okay, so you never know what's going to happen at a memorial service. I am here with Mr. Zarko Valencic, and Zarko, you knew my dad. You were in. How may I ask? How old are you?
I'm 89.
You're 89, same age as my father.
Yeah, I'll be 90 in March.
Well, bless your heart. So if I understand it, you've known my dad from way back.
Well, we both joined the Army on June 24th, 1946.
June 24th, 1946?
46.
Now that was after the war, correct?
It was after the war, and we had two things in mind. Mostly get the GI Bill,
Uh-huh.
and we wanted the experience of being in the Army and helping out the war cause. So we participated in the occupation of Japan.
Okay. Did you feel back then, did young men like yourself, did you feel a sense of obligation to go and serve?
Absolutely. All of our brothers, all of the older fellows in the neighborhood were all in the service. We all looked forward to graduating from school and going into the service because that's what all of the neighborhood did.
Okay.
And we just felt it was our obligation as American citizens to fight for our country.
Did you know my dad as a result of going into the service or through school or?
I knew him. I met him the day we joined the Army, and there were about 6 fellows from West Tech. They were all betas. There were 3 of us from Connewood High School, and there were about 4 fellows from North High School in Akron.
Uh-huh.
And these 3 groups gelled immediately, and we bonded all through basic training. And after basic training, we all shipped to California. And Ernie and one of my best friends, Eddie Mauser, they joined the 101st Airborne. So they went off to Sendai. The rest of us were shipped to Tokyo, and we were scattered to the 4 winds. So many of us were in military government, some were in military transportation. But
Right.
we functioned as a phantom government until the government of Japan could be put on its feet.
Now, you know what they say? They say that yours was the greatest generation. You know that?
I don't know if it was the greatest generation, but we all had a sense of purpose when the war came around. And I think today's youth are more intelligent than we were.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many more technical advancements. It seems that education has progressed tremendously
Sure.
since we were young, and I think the world will go along pretty well.
You know, this may or may not surprise you, but my dad used to fly the American flag. And he flew the American flag every day. He would go down and he would raise that flag regardless of the weather, regardless of whether it was hot, late at night, he'd go and get the flag down, blizzards. My dad was always flying the flag. And when we would ask him, Dad, why do you always take on this responsibility? You know what he used to say? He said that he was flying it because a lot of boys didn't come home because of that flag. Does that surprise you when I tell you that about my dad?
Not at all.
No?
We have a flag flying at our house all the time.
Uh-huh. So a very, very strong sense of patriotism. I was asking some people earlier, what would be one word that would best describe my dad, Ernie? Does any word in particular come into mind when I say, what one word would describe my dad? As you think back on the time you spent with him.
Your dad was a tough guy.
He was a tough guy.
Yeah.
Was he fun? Did he have a big sense of humor?
He was a very funny guy.
He was funny.
He had a nice sense of humor, but I told you earlier, he and Mark Guyani fought for our battalion.
Boxing?
Boxing.
Okay.
I think it was about 145 weight class.
Uh-huh.
And they had one of the best boxing matches they ever viewed
No
in
kidding.
Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Fort McClellan, Alabama.
They went 3 rounds, and leather was flying for 3 rounds. They were both bloody. They were
No
both
kidding.
fought valiantly, and I think the fight was a draw. But it had the greatest response from the soldiers that were there. They said it was the best fight they had ever seen.
I'll be damned. I never knew that about my dad.
Yeah, he was just tough as nails.
Yeah?
Tough as nails.
Was it, when I think of my dad, you know, I always think of a man that had a book in his hands. Was he always reading back then? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember that, but I was just telling my wife this morning, he must have had an awful lot of drive to have 10 children and go to school at nights,
Yeah.
become an engineer.
Right.
I went to school immediately coming out of the Army. I graduated from John Carroll, and I'm not sure if Ernie started, but his best friends, 2 of his best friends, Jimmy Cusick and Tom, I can't think of his name now. They were friends of Ernie's, but a whole bunch of us started at Carroll, and some of them transferred.
Sure.
But it was kind of difficult for me, having been in the Army and then come back and have to study and go back through the routine and get used to school again. But we all graduated. Ernie apparently did it through night school,
Sure.
and it takes an awful lot of
Lot
drive,
of drive and dedication.
to do that, and I'm sure it was for the love of his family.
Sure, absolutely. He loved his family. Did you have any relationship with my father after the war? Did you
Yes.
stay in touch?
Yeah, I called Ernie several times. My daughters were cheerleaders for Euclid, and I don't know which of the siblings they were acquainted with,
Sure.
but they were acquainted with one of your siblings. And I talked to Ernie several times, and he was a little hard of hearing on the telephone, but
Yeah, he's still a little hard of hearing.
we did have several discussions, and we had a couple of reunions
Sure.
of the fellows that were in our battalion. And I always invited Ernie, but he was either going to school or he was
something.
working. He had too many obligations
I'll be darned.
and
Well,
never could make it.
Mozarko, listen, you know what? Bless your heart for taking some time to share some memories about my dad.
It's my pleasure.
I can't begin to thank you. You know, I always thought that my dad was a lover, not a fighter. You know? I mean, with 10 children, one would think so, huh?
Well, he was a tough guy, but very compassionate also.
All right. Well, thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome.
All right. There you have it, folks. And you thought you knew my dad.